11 years, 239 lives. A record-breaking enigma in aviation history. Malaysia Airlines MH370 disappeared under mysterious circumstances that night back in 2014, leaving hundreds of thousands of questions unanswered. But now, with the introduction of the world's most advanced deep-sea search technology ever invented, the final truth is slowly unveiling itself. The Ocean Infinity Fleet identified a 15,000 kilometers search area in the Indian Ocean where they suspect the Boeing 777 lies at depths of almost 6,000 m. New evidence consists of the flaperon debris discovered on Reunion Island and information provided by an unusual radio signal tracking technology. But why did it take more than 10 years to find these evidence? Who intentionally activated the transponder system in the plane? And will this new evidence actually take us to the wreckage or be another case of a dead end? The answers are probably hiding in the ocean's bottomless depths. This time, technology could do what was previously impossible, unraveling the 21st century's greatest mystery. It was to be a normal flight. Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 departed from Kuala Lumpur at 12:41 a.m. on March 8, 2014, flying towards Beijing with 239 aboard. The plane soared into the darkness, transmitted its final automatic signal at 10:07 a.m., and remained on track. And then the last voice from the cockpit. "Good night, Malaysian 370. 2 minutes later, the transponder of the aircraft fell silent. MH370 had vanished from civilian air traffic control screens. Initially, the air traffic controllers believed it was a technical issue, but then military radar detected something strange. The aircraft had turned west, totally off its course, and started flying over the Malay Peninsula. It continued, crossing the Andaman Sea. There was no radio call, no warning, and no reason. The plane simply continued flying in silence for more than 6 hours. The last signal ever detected came at 8:19 a.m. By then, MH370 was somewhere over the southern Indian Ocean, and after that, it was gone. There was no distress call, no debris, and no sign of wreckage. In the space of a few hours, a modern Boeing 777 had vanished from the face of the earth. People around the world asked the same question. How can a plane go missing in 2014? 11 years on, we still don't have the complete explanation. But what if the true breakthrough was not from the air, but from the seafloor? What if the key to aviation's greatest enigma was never radar, but robots? Let's see how technology is now finally shifting the balance. Right from the time MH370 disappeared, the search was an international effort. Governments, experts, and volunteers all scrambled to come up with answers, but the Indian Ocean was vast, and the clues were practically non-existent. Initially, rescue teams combed the South China Sea because that is where it was last seen, but satellite information later indicated that the plane had headed west. This altered everything. The search shifted thousands of miles towards the southern Indian Ocean, one of the most remote locations on the planet. During the next 3 years, vessels and planes from 26 nations assisted. The search extended over 4.5 million kilometers, or about the area of the United States. Special boats towed sonar cables along the ocean floor. Planes dropped listening devices beneath the waves. Even civilians participated via satellite crowd mapping platforms, such as Tom Nod, searching fuzzy images for potential debris. By the final months of 2017, the price tag had risen above $150 million. It was the most costly search in aviation history. Yet all the sophisticated equipment and enormous resources proved to be nothing. The conclusion was disappointing. No black boxes, no corpses. Just a few pieces of broken debris later discovered washed up on remote beaches. The sea had consumed the evidence, and the world was left with only more questions. Why did the most technologically advanced search of its day fail so miserably? Why was MH370 so hard to locate? And more to the point, what had changed in the years that followed? The answer may surprise you because the solution didn't come from human intervention, but from machines constructed to venture where no diver ever had. Silence for more than a year. No wreckage, No signals, no real clues. Then, in July 2015, something was different. A debris, later identified as a Boeing 777 flaperon, was washed up on the beaches of Rayon Island in the Indian Ocean. It was the first tangible proof that MH370 had crashed somewhere in the Southern Ocean. That one piece provided families and investigators with hope, but also further questions. If this section had drifted all the way to Rayon, what else was probably floating around? Shortly afterwards, other debris started surfacing on coastlines thousands of kilometers apart. Pieces of the plane appeared in Madagascar, Mozambique, and Tanzania. Each discovery added to the creation of models of ocean currents by scientists to make an estimate of where the plane could have flown into the sea. Experts backtracked the debris path from computer simulations and inferred that the crash site would have been near a narrow arc in the southern Indian Ocean. But even with that knowledge, search teams could not nail down the precise location. The ocean was just too enormous, and the plane might have come in at a steep angle, going down rapidly and dispersing wreckage over precipitous underwater topography. The wreckage provided evidence of tragedy, but not closure. It did establish that the aircraft had reached its end in the ocean, but its main body and black boxes were still nowhere to be found. So, the world was left with shattered bits, but not the whole tale. What type of technology could probe those dark, treacherous depths and actually locate something? That's when the search transitioned into the next stage, and it brought with it machines never seen before. Years of silence had passed since the search for MH370, but then it was revived. In 2018, a privately owned company named Ocean Infinity entered the picture. This was different from all government-led missions that had come before. This was a high-risk venture by a technology startup in Texas. They possessed something others didn't. Ocean Infinity had come up with a new type of search system that integrated deep-sea robotics, high-resolution sonar, and autonomous navigation. But they also took a serious gamble: no find, no fee. Under their no find, no fee contract, they would only be paid up to $70 million if they located the wreckage. That meant all their eggs were in one basket. To command the expedition, Ocean Infinity dispatched one of the most sophisticated ships on the planet, the Seabed Constructor. This was more than a research vessel. It transported a fleet of underwater robots called AUVs, or autonomous underwater vehicles. Every AUV could descend to depths of 6,000 m and survey the ocean floor without being tethered to the ship. They were grouped, charting vast regions with advanced sonar equipment and onboard computers. In contrast to slower search aids that were dragged behind ships, these robots were quick, intelligent, and autonomous. They worked in silence, hovering near the seafloor as they gathered thousands of gigabytes of data with each dive. In their first try in 2018, Ocean Infinity UV surveyed over 112,000 kilometers of ocean. That was nearly the entire scope of the previous government search. They even ventured into areas never previously explored. But even using this cutting-edge tech, the expedition turned up nothing. There was no trace of MH370. Ocean Infinity suspended operations, but they did not give up. They went back to work perfecting their equipment, creating a new robotic fleet, and designing a second-generation ship, the Armada 7806. This new ship could launch and operate several AUVs without human crews aboard. It was science fiction come to life, a floating robot mind controlling a crew of underwater spies. In the early part of 2024, Ocean Infinity said they were back. This time, their gear was smarter, their data finer, and their game plan keener than ever. They targeted a smaller area picked out by AI models and ocean current simulations. Each sensor, each sonar beep, each robot descent was designed for one purpose: to finally shatter the silence of the deep. To explore where men do not tread, you require machines that can think, act, and live independently. That is precisely what Ocean Infinity's underwater armada was designed to do. These were not the old-fashioned remote-operated vehicles that had to be directed by cables. They were AUVs, or autonomous underwater vehicles, and operated like a group of deep-sea detectives. Each AUV was torpedo-shaped and about 6 m long and full of high-tech gadgetry. They were capable of descending 6,000 m below the sea surface, beyond most submarines, and remaining active for more than 100 hours without surfacing. These were deployed